So we just had an enormous leak from Microsoft by way of the FTC court case with all of their dealings with Activision Blizzard. This leak is massive. It is the end of the world for Microsoft, and I don't think they're feeling fine. So let's run down the list of all the important news that comes from this, and more importantly, what it could mean for gaming in general in a couple of years, what the impacts of these things could be, because there's a lot of juicy information here. There's a lot of bad stuff, and I imagine a lot of people are going to dogpile on Microsoft for this. Hopefully, whatever comes from this, Microsoft focuses up and just does a better job. There's also a very important disclaimer here. We don't know the exact date of a lot of the things in these leaks, and there's a very, very large list of things. But from what we know, the most recent things seem to be around early 2022, and the oldest thing can go far back as like 2020. That's because we see in a lot of these documents that Starfield was still planned for a 2022 release, and that got delayed in May of 2022. So, like I said, we don't know what's still true, what isn't, plans change. The first thing to talk about is that Microsoft thinks the next generation of consoles will kick off in 2028. So that would mean we have an 8-year generation here, but more importantly, Microsoft specifies that it would leverage the power of the cloud to its fullest in this new 2028 console. I think this sucks, and while it could be the future, we never know, we're still in a situation today where we're realizing how dependent we are on upscaling technologies like DLSS or AMD's FSR, with the leaks from the Nintendo Switch 2 mentioning how important DLSS is to getting that performance. So we're already slowly getting used to this dependency on these upscaling technologies for performance. Are you telling me that now, in 8 years, we're also going to depend on cloud computing in order to get what we want? This always online future? It also mentions other potential things like a handheld console that could be in the works. Now, from the way it's positioned on this image here, it seems to be a step above something like a low tier PC or whatever their cloud gaming service is supposed to have, which we assume has some hardware on its end. It's positioned just below the consoles, so I would like to imagine that it's a dedicated console that's just handheld and not a cloud device that's handheld. If it's a cloud device, I don't care, and I think a lot of people won't care, but if it's a competitor to the Switch or the Steam Deck, that could be interesting. This always online future, by the way, is getting pushed further than we think, sooner than we think, because there will be mid-generation refreshes for the Xbox at around 2025, and they will not have disk drives, neither of them. I would also like to mention that the PS5 refresh does not have a disk drive. There are rumblings of it having the ability to attach a disk drive via USB-C. But that seems like a weird thing to offer and sell from Sony, so I'm not sure on it. I would like that to be the case because any disk drive is better than zero. But it seems pretty clear that we're heading into an all-digital future, and that's what the console manufacturers want as well. The days of popping in a disc and being able to play a game without any online connectivity are disappearing. As Daniel Ahmed, or JugeX, which is a video games analyst, said on Twitter, over half of the Xbox Series consoles don't have disk drives, and over 70% of full game purchases are digital on PlayStation. This future is coming. If you are into game preservation at this point, I would recommend you start investing into a lot of hard drives and PCs that are compatible with the games you want to preserve, whether that's with an emulator or just natively on PC, because it's not looking good. In some good news, this refresh is coming with a new controller, codenamed Sibyl. It works directly with xCloud and is intended to work with all of your devices, Microsoft or apparently otherwise as well. It comes with a ton of upgrades. It comes with a rechargeable, replaceable battery pack, which I understand to be an actual battery and not just putting two AA's in. This is great. I love my DualSense controller, but I hate the amount of battery that it has, and having swappable batteries and opening up to potentially having aftermarket solutions for those batteries so that these controllers could last longer would be great. This new controller has precision haptic feedback and quiet buttons and thumbstick. There is no mention of them having magnetic thumbsticks that, in a very quick and dirty explanation, they don't get stick drift. They are just always good. Those are something that Nintendo is considering for the Switch 2, understandable after how terrible the Joy-Con drift is on the Switch 1, and I would really like this technology to be implemented in all of controllers moving forward, at least on the premium side. The wildest part about the leak is Phil Spencer talking about potential acquisitions by Microsoft to stay in the market, and on the list was Nintendo. They mentioned how that would be really hard to do. It would have to be in a merger kind of situation. It wouldn't be possible to just like acquire Nintendo. I don't think they would sell. But he said, and I have to read the quote here, Nintendo is taking a long time to realize their future isn't just in hardware. Okay, Phil, look, man, I like you, Phil, but are you sure this comment wasn't like directed at yourself? Like, let's be honest here. Nintendo is crushing it in terms of sales and in terms of value and IP, and they're not only on their hardware. It's just that when they leave their hardware, it's to make a ton of money with things like Mario Kart Tour and Fire Emblem Heroes and Pokemon Go. Nintendo is doing just fine, and I don't think this could ever happen. But I mean, yes, Phil, of course. Everybody would like to buy Nintendo. And I know there's a lot of people spinning this narrative of Xbox just wants to consolidate the whole industry and like buy everything up. If Sony or Valve or literally anybody, if anybody could buy Nintendo, they would do it. It's just because the Microsoft documents have been leaked and that makes them look bad because it's all out in the open, doesn't mean that you should immediately think that all of these sorts of conversations are happening everywhere else, and namely within the console manufacturer space. If you don't think Sony has spoken internally and has a big list of things that they would like to buy, and that Nintendo wasn't considered, you're crazy, because they have. Well, to be honest, maybe Nintendo doesn't do these things. Maybe Nintendo doesn't think about buying Sony or something like that, because like I get they're just weird sometimes, but I'm sure they've thought about buying a ton of stuff. In any case, if this could ever happen, it would be very bad. However, they also listed that they would like to purchase Valve or merge with Valve, and that will also not happen. But there is an interesting nugget here that if they're so aware of this, look, I love Game Pass on PC, but I would really like it more if I could use it incorporated into Steam, like if it were just in my Steam library, kind of like how EA Play does it. If they did that, which of course would not be beneficial to Xbox itself, but it would definitely get them 2 or 3 million subscribers real fast on Game Pass if that were just there on Steam, which is an interesting idea. Would you like Game Pass on Steam? Let me know in the comments below. Speaking of Game Pass, that is definitely Microsoft's focus. And Phil said that if they don't reach 100 million Game Pass subscribers by 2027, Xbox might just bow out of the video game business. Those are big, important words. And also terrible news for gamers. I've seen a lot of people celebrating this, like, oh, we just have to hold on 4 more years and then Xbox will be gone. And I don't think a lot of these people are really considering how terrible it would be if there were no competition in the console space. Because let's be honest here, Nintendo doesn't really count. When we talk about the console space, ever since the Wii, it's really Xbox and PlayStation. And I just want to remind people that when either one of them has had the majority control of the market, they've pulled horrible stunts like the online DRM with no sharing your games from Xbox, or, you know, charging for online play, or raising prices, or, you know, just the entire concept of the PlayStation 3. It's a very long list of scummy things that both of these companies are guilty of whenever they've been in control of the market. So if there were no competition, everything bad that could happen would happen. Harder pushes on a lot of anti-consumer practices. Because if you don't have an alternative, if there's nobody else to keep the competition in check, you can bet your bottom dollar that Physical games would be completely gone. Subscription prices would go up for mediocre subscriptions, forcing you to pay for any sort of online play. Increase in prices of both games and hardware. So I sincerely hope that Microsoft either turns this ship around and really holds on to its position to compete, to continue in the gaming business, or that before they exit, we have another alternative pop in and offer that competition, because if we don't, it's going to be really bad for console gaming. Hey, Dreamcast 2? Okay, all jokes aside, maybe Valve can step in. Maybe Valve could put out like a PC alternative, but it hooks up to your TV. It's kind of a simpler solution that doesn't require building a PC or anything like that. Maybe they could call it like the Steam machine, and maybe it could not flop. Moving on to games. Oblivion and Fallout 3 remakes / remasters are in the works, or were, but I imagine they still are. That's good. Those games are good. Those games are better than a certain recent game. Dishonored 3 is coming, and I'm really, really happy about that. Doom Year Zero is a new Doom game, and I hope that it's not the Year Zero of like the Gates of Hell opening. I just hope that we get to play as a 0-year-old baby Doomslayer. That would be really funny. Same enemies, same everything, same guns too, just he's like a month old. Ghostwire Tokyo 2 is a thing, and what a wonderful concept Ghostwire Tokyo was. I just wish it were a better game. I'm down for giving it a second shot. Although, guys, where's Hi-Fi Rush 2? I mean, yeah, these leaks are old, but like, Hi-Fi Rush 2, right? Indiana Jones has been a thing for a long time, and it was scheduled around here, so it shouldn't be very long until that game comes out. There's also an unannounced licensed game in there, and that's all we know about it. For more controller things, there's also the premium controller, which would be a step between like the core one mentioned before and the elite version, and also a new elite controller. Some of the craziest information in the whole leaks is how much Xbox was willing to spend to secure day one Game Pass games. This was specifically in the context of Xbox wanting to shore up a weak software release schedule that they had, and that Phil says that they should learn from and plan better. Yeah, for sure. Let's hope you do that. But a cool 300 million for Jedi Survivor? 250 million for Mortal Kombat 1. There's a ton of just very high numbers. The lowest one to really mention is 5 million for Baldur's Gate 3. To put that into perspective, on this list they are talking about putting a new next-gen version of Red Dead Redemption 2 day one on Game Pass and having to pay Rockstar 5 million a month. So securing day one Larian at just 5 million, what a way to underestimate what Larian could do. However, Cromwell, also known as Michael Dowse, head of publishing at Larian, did tweet out saying, hey, it's fine if they underestimated us. Nobody could have estimated what Baldur's Gate 3 was going to be. Not even we internally could even have imagined it. True words. So good job there. There's some more tidbits in here about involving procedural content generation and things like that into the newer systems, as well as some in-depth reports on funding and expectation for these. Like, for example, the Handheld doesn't have basically anything off the ground, and the Elite controller hasn't guaranteed resources or funding. So, you know, a lot of these things are talks. I do also want to mention that we're going to see many more things come out of this leak, and a lot of them will look and sound terrible. Some will actually be terrible, but not all of them are. I think context is really important in these situations, and it's important to remember that a lot of the things that people are criticizing about what Microsoft is saying internally is like really bad because it's out there, but that also should be a red flag to all of us that this is how other companies are talking about stuff too. Namely Sony. Sony just gets a free pass here because it's not their stuff that was leaked, but I'm sure they've had a lot of conversations about this internally as well, and now that we're going to see all of this commentary on Xbox's leak, hopefully both Xbox and Sony can react accordingly and not do horrible stuff. Surely there is just a lot of things that are horrible, like the absolutely soulless machinations of the machine, like the potential consumer quotes around Xbox. This slide will give me nightmares. Loving the new storage options and fresh look of the Xbox Series X, but the real highlight is the new controller.
Awesome new haptics, rechargeable battery, and I can connect it directly to the cloud. Xbox has made buying my games digitally as easy and affordable as discs. Plus, I can play those games on multiple devices I already own. I don't miss my disc drive at all.
I feel like Xbox really knows me, giving me tons of options, ways to customize, and personalized suggestions.
It's important to me that the companies I support take sustainability seriously, and Xbox does. No real human would ever sound like the terrible impressions I did, but no real human would ever say these things either. For my personal take on all of this really hurts Xbox, and Xbox is not in a good position to begin with right now. For the health of the industry, I hope that they steer the ship and deliver some consumer-friendly options. I don't like the cloud, and it just reeks of metaverse tech failure, and would really prefer having the fundamentals of the console, its appeal, and especially its games be excellent. Day one Game Pass is amazing, but I think that in the chase for that, Xbox might be forgetting that their product just isn't as appealing as the competition's, and Game Pass helps in that fight, but I think there's other stuff to iron out first in terms of just branding and general appeal. And games, like seriously, like games, good games sell. Like I'm gonna die on that hill. Just make good games, guys. I've been Mugthief. Let me know what you think of all of this in the comments below. Remember to leave a like while you head down there. And if you want the best news, reviews, analysis, and commentary, subscribe. I have a Starfield critique coming out next week, which is right now at 9,700 words. So please subscribe. And of course, I will see you on the internet.